If you've ever sat through a corporate strategy presentation, you have almost certainly heard the statistic that 70% of all change initiatives fail. It is widely accepted as fact. But when researchers went looking for the data behind it, they found absolutely zero empirical backing. The 70% figure is a product of citation telephone. It traces back from McKinsey decks to earlier academic observations, eventually taking the form of a brutal fact in the year 2000 without citing any rigorous evidence. It survives because creating fear is a reliable way to sell consulting services. While the statistic is fabricated, the difficulty of change is real. The problem is that modern leadership often treats employees like machines receiving constant, massive software updates, assuming the human nervous system has infinite bandwidth to process them. This chart shows data from Gartner tracking the volume of change. In 2016, the average employee faced 2 enterprise-wide changes. By 2022, that number rose to 10. That is a 5-fold increase in less than a decade. As the volume of change spiked, the willingness to support it collapsed. Gartner found that employee support for enterprise change fell from 74% to just 43%. David Rock's SCARF model identifies 5 social domains that triggered this response: status, certainty, autonomy, relatedness, and fairness. When change threatens these, the brain initiates a survival protocol. When these domains are compromised, the amygdala fires, sending a cortisol surge through the nervous system. This starves the prefrontal cortex. Prioritizing survival, the brain becomes biologically less capable of the complex thought required to adopt new processes. This bandwidth bloodbath is made worse by context switching. During a transition, employees aren't just learning a new job. They are doing their old one and processing the emotional weight of the change simultaneously. Research shows workers toggle between apps roughly 1,200 times a day. Each switch drains the same limited pool of willpower used for decision-making. By the afternoon, the reservoir is empty. When people resist change, it usually isn't a lack of character. They are exhausted, their cognitive resources are depleted, and they are defaulting to old habits because their brains are in survival mode. The alternative is a developer patch for the brain. Instead of trying to overpower the threat response, you use the quiet science of behavior design to bypass it. The first step is to shrink the new behavior until failure is almost impossible. You anchor that tiny action to an existing routine and trigger a hit of positive emotion immediately, which wires the brain more effectively than repetition alone. This also means ignoring the popular myth that habits take 21 days to form. That number comes from a 1960s plastic surgeon's observation of his patients, not a controlled study on behavior. Actual data from University College London shows a much messier reality. The median time to reach automaticity is actually 66 days, with some behaviors taking up to 254 days to truly stick. To bridge that gap, you use implementation intentions. These are simple if-then plans, like if I finish my morning coffee, then I log my AI usage, which automate the decision so the brain doesn't have to spend energy on it. Achieving durable change isn't about relying on massive willpower. It's about redesigning the immediate environment so that even a depleted brain can follow the new path without needing to make a choice. This U-curve is the valley of despair, the predictable drop in performance following any major change. But leaders watch daily data too closely and panic at random fluctuations. They mistake noise for failure, abandoning the effort just before the trend turns upward. To survive the valley, you have to ignore lagging indicators like quarterly ROI, which tell you what happened when it's too late to act. Instead, you watch leading indicators, the micro behaviors that prove the new habits are actually forming. We saw the result of ignoring this science in the top-down return-to-office mandates of the last 2 years. By forcing a change that threatened autonomy and fairness, companies like Amazon and Dell faced internal protests and the loss of top talent. The same pattern is emerging in AI rollouts. MIT found that 95